That's like, for certain people, is the turn away there?
Mike, your screen is going crazy. Mike Ramondi.
Yeah. What's
And-
crazy?
It's going all over the place. I don't know if anybody else is seeing that, but
I
it's
do.
Oh.
Yeah, it seems like it's like
Reboot.
it's
Rebooting?
Looks good now.
I just want to
Oh,
make
my
sure
face
you're,
isn't moving.
yeah, your
not
video's
yet.
a bit
frozen.
frozen.
Maybe I died and went to heaven. Is this heaven?
Zoom heaven,
I
yeah.
hope not.
Oh, mine too.
Zoom seems more like a purgatory than anything, but yeah.
Sure, Mike.
I don't know. What do you want me to do?
Oh, you're fine. I just want to make sure we can hear you all right.
Okay.
Because I saw something crazy was going on your screen, so I just wanted to make sure.
I'm gonna hit stop video and start it again.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure when it's time for you to speak, you can speak.
1, 2, 3, 4. Did I lose you?
I can still hear you. I don't see you.
Select the camera, okay. Selected. Only got one camera. Cannot start video. Failed to start a video. Select another video camera. What's going on?
Mike, I just muted you while you're figuring that out. And then Manny, we have 5 present, yourself, Tim, Jim, Michelle, and John. Everyone was present for the last meeting, I believe. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And we can get started whenever you want to get going.
Okay, hey, Jim, you possible to fill in some of the roll calls, or is that going to be you, Michael, for tonight?
I can do that if you like. That's fine.
Okay, perfect. So checking the time, we're going to call our meeting to order at 7:03. Okay, can we do a quick roll call of the board?
Yeah. Michelle Ziemba,
Oh, I saw Michelle.
Here.
Tim Dannenfelser,
Here.
Jonathan Hayter,
Jonathan, you may be on mute.
yeah, you muted John.
Here.
There you go. James Finnegan,
Here.
Manny Linares,
Aye.
and
Here.
Bob Moreau is excused.
Okay, so I'm going to begin with reading the procedure, and then we'll reopen our continuation, if that's okay for our. Let me pull it up. Traveling, I gotta just gotta snag it quick. Okay. All right, so our zoning board review hearing procedures. Number 1, any person who wishes to speak will sign in with his or her name and address and will be placed under oath. All questions and statements must be addressed to the board. There will be no crosstalk in the audience. Number 2, once the application is read, the chair will hear from the applicant first. It is the applicant's burden to present evidence supporting his or her requests. The presentation must be clear and to the point. Number 3, after the applicant has completed his or her presentation, any abutters in favor of the application will have a reasonable time to speak. After all abutters in favor of the application have spoken, any abutters opposed to the application will have reasonable time to speak. Number 4, after all abutters have spoken, any other interested members of the audience may, at the discretion of the chair, speak for no more than 5 minutes. No person shall speak twice until all interested parties have spoken. Number 5, once all testimony is heard, the board will recess and place for discussion. No further testimony will be taken from the floor once the board is in recess. Number 6, the board will then come out of recess. The chair will accept any motion, and it is the board's procedure that each motion must be in the affirmative. This does not imply an acceptance of the application. Number 7, 5 active members shall be necessary to conduct a hearing and vote. A vote of 4 to 1 is necessary to carry any motion except an appeal. An appeal requires a vote of 3 to 2. Okay. Number 8, whether approved or denied, the board's decision will be finalized within 15 days and shall be recorded and filed within 30 working days from the date of the decision was rendered. The decision will be mailed to the applicant and the zoning enforcement officer. See Rhode Island General Laws, Section 45-2461. No building permit can be issued before the decision is finalized and recorded. Number 9, if your hearing is denied, you have the right to an appeal to Superior Court within 20 days after such decision is recorded. Number 10, the board reserves the right to postpone a decision until the next regularly scheduled meeting on any hearing. Okay. Do we need to reread the snippet
Yeah.
for the,
Oh.
okay. Michael, could you just reread the snippet for T Parker Road?
The advertisement, correct, Joanna? Or
Yes,
I'll just read
please.
from the
Or from the agenda, yeah.
agenda. Okay, here we go. Public hearing for 0 T Parker Road, Plat 3, Lot 16D. The applicant, John B. Hawkins, seeks approval for a dimensional variance from the requirements of section 38-277 subsection A, sewerage disposal from the minimum required setback 100 feet from property lines and section 38-192 dimensional regulations from the required 100-foot rear yard setback.
Okay, thank you. Before, I guess, before we get John B. re-sworn in, for the continuation, I'd just like to put the letter of withdrawal of the rear yard setback as I believe Exhibit 2, if my notes are still correct.
Yeah, so for clarification, the applicant had submitted a letter requesting withdrawal without prejudice regarding the rear yard setback, which is the last snippet that I just read from the agenda. So the section 38-192 dimensional regulations from the required 100-foot rear yard setback. The applicant is withdrawing that request for a variance. So they are only currently now asking for the variance in regards to the first part, which is the sewerage disposal section 38-277 subsection A.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Is John B. Hawkins available?
Yes, here.
Okay, I don't see your camera.
I'm under Michelle Holloway.
Ah, there you are.
Different slide
All right.
today. Thank you.
Cindy, could you swear him in for us, please?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
John Bruce Hawkins.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hawkins, I believe you've come with some further information for us from some of the discussion, based on some of the discussion of last time. Would you like to take a few minutes to walk us through?
Sure. Yeah, so as owner and applicant respectively request to withdraw from the zoning board's consideration for the variance request regarding section 38-192 rear yard setback. Pursuant to section 38-226B, all dimensional requirements of the district shall be complied with, except that side and rear requirements be reduced by associated percentage that the lot is less than 150 feet wide or less than 200 feet deep. Therefore, the original request of the 50-foot reduction is no longer necessary or required. So we respectfully request withdrawal without prejudice from the board. And we brought Mike Ramundi, who engineered the septic system to kind of shed some light on why that spot was chosen and why it's the best spot. So thank you.
Okay, so it's my understanding that we have to get Mr. Ramundi sworn in as well.
Yes.
Can he turn his camera on or?
I've done every trick that I know, and there's, other than shutting off and running the risk of losing you and rebooting, I could do that.
Just raise your right hand.
I've been sworn in before your board many a time. I don't know if that has any issue or any weight to it.
I given the given this application, is there I think it might be best if we can try to get your camera on so that you can.
Okay, I'm gonna shut off, reboot, and try to log back on, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Manny, when he gets back on, we can qualify him as an expert. My concern is that if there is an appeal, I don't want to run into an issue where somebody indicates that the expert testimony wasn't properly before the board because we couldn't see him and maybe he wasn't properly sworn in. And I think that saves everybody time and money.
Okay, thank you. Could I also ask anyone who is not going to speak for a little bit to please put their microphones on mute?
Oh, even better. Yeah, so what do I do? Now I'm not speaking right now, so I shut it off.
Okay, so just press.
Even if he signs back on, this camera's going crazy, I think we can make it work.
As long as yes,
Yeah.
he can raise his right hand. We see him. He identifies himself. Even if the picture ends up being frozen after that.
Yeah. No one took me up on my offer for Zoom assistance. I'm at the Benetti all alone.
Oh no! I thought that Dave Palino was going to come.
He's on Zoom, but he was gonna keep me company. He decided not to.
Mike, it's not personal, man.
I needed
Yeah.
to hear that. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no, it's true. I would have shot over there, but I didn't know you were just like waiting on somebody.
No, I was just here just in case a resident needed assistance or anything to get on, and they otherwise couldn't. So
It'd be a
No.
long way. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't see. Oh, I don't see Michael back on yet.
that sounded like he was going to restart his entire computer. So hopefully he didn't need the update. To John B, or John F. I know John F isn't sworn in yet. Was there, and through the chair, Manny, if you want to hear anybody talk in the meantime, was there anything else you were going to provide tonight, aside from the expert testimony that you wanted to discuss now? Will we wait for Mike to join us, or do we want to hold off and wait for Mike?
Mike has everything that we need there. And the only thing that he, that's an approved by state DEM permit.
Okay, just John F, if we need to get you sworn in first before you provide testimony.
Okay,
Can you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
John F. Hawkins.
Thank you.
I think you're about to continue on Michael's testimony.
Oh, yes, sorry. I was just, John was starting to say something. I was going to allow, if the chair would like, I was going to allow him to provide whatever else in addition he thought was prudent to this discussion tonight that might not warrant, obviously, the expert presence. So if not, that's fine. But go ahead, John, if you have anything.
The permit is approved. It's issued by the state DEM. It's well within their guidelines. Their guidelines say that the system could be within 10 feet of the property line. And that system is about 51 feet from the property line. So that's 5 times the minimum requirement for the state. All of the other requirements are met for the town. The only thing that needs a variance is the town variance is required for the setback of the rear yard. The rear yard, it's way lower than a abutting property, so I don't see how the abutting property can be worried about runoff from our septic system. It's many feet lower than theirs, their property. You can see that from the plan, and notice the lines of demarcation for the heights, the different heights there. The height of the Hicks property, which seemed to be a problem the last time. The Hicks property is many feet above the septic system. It would require something like Noah's flood for any water to get from my property to their property.
Hello?
Hey, Mike, that's Mike Raimondi. Mike, can you turn your camera on?
I'm gonna try.
All right.
It's not working. Do you want to try? Can you hook up into my cell phone?
Yeah, you can call in with your cell phone, absolutely, if you have.
You want to give me you got to see video, right?
Yeah, you can, but you can do it from your cell phone. If you click the link, you can sign in. I mean, I've done them. It's harder for you. You don't see everybody, but we'd see you.
There's a QR code on the agenda too, if that's easy for you.
Sorry, let me see if I'm doing something wrong.
Mike Antonellis, can you invite him to turn his camera on? Because you're the.
Yeah, I'll do that again now, but.
I got stop my video. It's coming up. So I click on that. Launch Zoom meeting. Open link. I see my name up in the left-hand corner. Lower left, I got start video. It's just not going.
Is your lens cap off your camera, whatever your?
Yeah, I had it tested. It was working when I first signed on, right? You saw me, Mike.
Yeah, it was working, yeah.
It went down when you were switching around, so it may be at your end, I don't know.
Hey, Mike, this is David Palino. Oddly enough, when I started my Zoom meeting, my camera was disabled as well automatically.
Yeah, you just need to turn it on, but Mike's was working earlier. Mike, but you see the option to click start video and it's not doing anything for you?
I'm sorry, I was trying something else.
That's okay.
I mean, I don't know what to do. I rebooted the machine. I'm gonna turn my,
Mike,
I mean, don't you recognize my voice? You saw me 5 minutes ago.
Mike, do you have a smartphone?
Yes, I do.
Can you, if it's fully charged, would you mind trying to dial in, not dial in, but use your phone to get onto the meeting?
All right, where do I have to be? I've never done it on the phone.
Do you have a copy of the agenda? Do you know how to use QR codes?
Copy of the agenda.
Mike, can you text him? Maybe you can text him the Zoom link so he can just click it right from the text box.
Yeah, hold on.
Well, I don't know. This, I mean, I hate to, I mean, for my client's sake, this is, I mean, I was connected and you lost me, so I don't know what to do.
I mean, Mike, this is Joanna, the solicitor. My concern is that this has been a pretty hotly contested application, and that if there is an appeal and someone says that you weren't on the screen and you are, they move to throw your testimony out,
right, well,
it ends up, then we end up at square one, it ends up costing them more money. That's my concern.
Do you have other business tonight? I mean,
yes.
I got, let me try this. Outlook, I'll try to find you. Town of Forster. Files. That doesn't work. Tax agenda. All right, I found your agenda. All right. Maybe I can do it from here if you have some patience with me.
So, Mr. John B. Hawkins, we'll give a few more minutes and then maybe we'll continue to when we can get the visual on Mr. Ramundi.
I'm sorry. What was that? We'll give him a few more minutes, is that what he said?
Yeah, we'll give him another attempt through his cell phone. Hopefully he can get on video. If not, we'll continue to the next meeting.
Can I try this? Can I shut the whole computer down? Reboot? I mean, it's only fair, I think, to my client that we give me this time.
I mean, Manny, we do have, if the board is so inclined, we do have another public hearing. So we can try to let Mr. Ramundi figure out, how, if in fact he can't get on, and maybe his client can text him the Zoom link so that he's not giving everybody his cell phone number. And then maybe he can get on and we can do that other hearing first.
His phone number?
Are you sure it isn't anything you did at your end?
Mike, just real quick. When at the, where it says start video, do you see a little arrow that if you click it provides a drop down? Do you see that? Oh, it's not. I thought I could share the screen, but I can't share the Zoom screen.
Mr. Ramondi, are you still with us?
He's on mute.
I think we'll give a couple more minutes and then
Can I reboot and just one more try on that? And,
Danny, do you, I think that's fine. Do you want to move on to the next hearing? Do you want to suspend this and then we'll move on to our next agenda item and then we can come back to this one?
okay, I can, in the meantime, I can try to get in
And that
contact.
gives
with you.
him, yeah, that will give
Yes.
Mr. Ramondi more time
Well,
because
all
that
right,
hearing is probably
I-
going to take a,
I
yeah.
thought I had asked that already and was denied that.
no,
but-
I think that's, I mean, fair, it's up to you, but I think that's,
Okay,
I just, my concern is I'm not sure that we're gonna have enough tech support time in even a reboot. So I would feel more comfortable having the reboot done before we postpone and then find out that we don't have camera. I would,
reboot's gonna take 5 minutes. You don't have 5 minutes?
we will give you, yep, we'll give you 5 minutes and we'll wait here.
All right, thank you.
All right, I emailed Mr. Ramondi to my phone number. So if he doesn't get on, I'll try to get on the line with him to help solve his issues here.
Thank you, Michael. So it's been approximately 5 minutes. Why don't we give him one more minute and see if he can come back online? Okay, Mr. John B. Hawkins, would you like to continue without his testimony, or would you like to postpone for our next meeting and have him support expert testimony on your behalf through a continuation?
Next me- The next meeting would be okay.
Okay. So on behalf of the board, do we have a motion to continue?
I make a motion to continue Mr. Hawkins' request for the meeting.
Be the March 9th meeting, the second Wednesday in March, which is the 9th. Yeah.
Could we get,
He's in the wait. He's in the waiting room. I'm gonna
Mike,
try to admit him. Do you see him?
Yeah, I just admitted.
Oh, he's connecting.
Mike, you're on. Can you hear us? Oh, I see you.
Oh, yes.
Mike, does your
Yes.
audio work? Oh, he's connecting the audio.
You have to hit unmute, Mike.
Thought I did that.
There we go. Ken. You're good.
hey, there you are, Mike.
100%.
There we go.
Okay, well, we have
Swear me in before I lose it.
Oh, rescind. Do we need the rescind motion?
Yeah.
There wasn't
Yeah,
a
we have
second.
a,
Was there
Okay.
a second?
there wasn't.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
So, Michelle withdraws her motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Cindy, can we swear in the expert testimony?
You please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Angelo Michael Raimondi. Last name is Raimondi.
Thank you.
Mr. Raimondi, would you like to be qualified as an expert before the board?
Yes, I have been in the past qualified in your town.
Can you just give us a quick summary of your background as far as education and current?
Okay. Education, I got a degree in civil engineering. I'm a professional land surveyor in the state of Rhode Island since 1980. Previous to that, I worked for other people.
But you're licensed in Rhode Island, correct?
I am licensed to do land surveyors. I am licensed to perform soil evaluations, and I'm also licensed to design septic systems.
And have you testified before boards as an expert in the past?
Oh, yes.
Manny, did you want to have a motion to accept Mr. Raimondi as an expert?
I would like to accept him or entertain a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to accept Mr. Raimondi as an expert.
Second,
All in favor, Michelle Ziemba,
Aye.
Tim Danfelser,
Aye.
Jonathan Hayter,
Aye.
James Finnegan,
Aye.
Manny Lenars.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Ramundi, please share what information you have for us.
Say one more time, please.
Oh, please share the information that you have to share with the board.
Okay, I guess if the main focus of the discussion is the septic system, is that correct? Yes, okay. I personally performed the soil evaluation on 9/10/13. I don't know, I'll put this in front of the camera. I don't think you can see it, but this is the soil evaluation form that was submitted. And on the back, it's signed by this officer at the state of Rhode Island. We started off by doing, at that time, it was a field, I think, with high grass, if I recall. We started on the southern end and put a couple trial pits in and worked our way towards the north where we got where we are in the area that we now propose a septic system. The total depth of the test hole was 12 feet, no ledge. At 12 feet, there was no visible sign of any water seepage whatsoever. There was, however, in one test hole, 18 inches of fill on top. And the other test hole was 20 inches. So we almost between 1.5 feet and 2 feet of fill on top. When we determine the water table, we cannot use that as a factor. We have to disregard the amount of fill. We have to measure our water table from where we determined original ground is. And in that original ground, at 10 feet, we determined the water table to be a 4-footer for both test holes. And the good part of that, because we are on the Situate, in the Situate watershed, we have to design more conservatively by having a greater separation between the high water mark and the bottom of the proposed septic system. That was submitted with a design. It qualified for what we call a standard system. It was approved by DEM. This must be the extension. Let's see the first one. 11/26/13. It was renewed 5/26/21. Approved the exact same system. And I believe one of the questions that comes before the board is the distance from the septic system to the rear line, which in your zoning regulations, the requirement is 100 feet, and the closest point that we have on the approved design is 51. Now, before I came today, I wanted to refresh my memory to make sure my memory was correct. I researched in the regulations again, and the state minimum distance to a rear property line or a side property line or any property line is 10 feet. And our closest point is 51 feet. So by a factor greater than 5-to-1, we exceed the minimum distance that the state requires. All right, so that's a good point. The soils were excellent. We got a standard system in there. We didn't have to put in any type of exotic system, and I stand behind it. I did it personally. I also signed off on a design and signed the septic system that was approved. We did the survey of that lot. And, we will be laying it out exactly where it is. Now, if if people are worried about there being a mound there to obstruct views or anything of that nature, it's not going to happen because effectively, because we had 2 feet of fill, the fill is still there. So the maximum height, if you don't have a plan, it may not mean anything to you, but the contour line of existing contour line that goes through the system, the middle of the system is elevation 106. And that's relative to a assumed bench we put in. Now, on the design of it, top elevation, the maximum allowed would be 107 and the minimum is 106.38. So effectively, oh yeah, that's a nice picture. Oh, stop my video. Okay, you can see. Oh, this picture doesn't have the contours on it. How come? This may not be the septic system design. This must be something else. But anyhow, the most of ground would be higher than the existing ground now would be about 6 inches. So there would be no hill there, so to speak. So there would be no impediment to any water flow over that parcel. It's quite a good design and it fits right into the system. There you go. This is the contour line that goes right through the system. Follow it down, that's 108. And if you look to the right of that picture, you'll see the elevation detail in the lower right-hand corner. And it shows all the elevations that are allowed. And you'll see that on top of this septic system here, it says elevation minimum is 106.38, maximum is 107.38. So there's no reason for anybody to go to the maximum. So 106.38, so it'd be raised 1/3 of a foot higher than that contour line. That's 107. No, it's gonna be right at it. I'm sorry, I misread my plan. That's 108, not 106. It's tough to get old, you know, you don't want to do it. Yeah, that's 108. So there's no way there's going to be a hill there whatsoever. It's pretty standard, and here's a 51 feet back here to that far corner. That's a nice piece of property, actually. I was pleased with the results there. And I believe this originally was 2 parcels and it was combined, but I didn't come prepared to testify about that. But I think originally, way back when, it was actually 2 parcels that they were combined, and it became the lot that it is now. I'm open to any questions, comments.
Does the board have any questions of Mr. Raimondi? I have a few for you, Mr. Raimondi. Just in that plan that was just shown on the screen, is there any reason why the system couldn't be rotated or moved to another location on the property to maximize the setbacks?
Well, we're only talking a difference of 9 feet. How are you going to maximize this? We put this system, basically, we can't stray too far from the alignment of the soil evaluation test holes we did there. It's good to go with the contour line, so you don't have any dramatic changes in grade, which is, we went right down the middle and went parallel to the contour lines, which is, you know, a good practice for design work. It eliminates excessive fill and changes in grades. So it becomes a much flatter, smoother top of the system.
Okay, so the other side of the property was not suitable?
No, going south, we found more and more fill the further south we went. If I recall, quite bouldery, not really suitable for septic systems. Now, it's going back quite a few years, but I liked a lot. We did a lot of work. We did the work on the campground also. So I know I got a good feel for the soils in the area.
Do you know how much soil evaluation or even water tables can change over the years?
When I started surveying, we used to do it what people call the perk test. And that's really how we determined water tables at that time. And that is the most unreliable way of doing it. This soil evaluation, I kind of fought it because I had to go back to school. I had to, my college days were over. But I had to go back to school, take courses, UMass Amherst, I think it was, and take a test, both in field and Renton. And I've come to be a believer. There are a few cases where the redoxomorphic features aren't clearly defined, but that was not the case here. We had no doubt where the water table was, and I think it's great.
And from the knowledge you have, how long do you believe a soil evaluation is actually good for?
The DEM has put no limit when they go by their, I think 10 years, I believe. I have to inspect the site, just a visual inspection, and sign an affidavit that nothing has changed. And I went by that. I was on T Parker maybe 2 months ago, and I always look at areas where things are coming back to life. And I saw nothing there that would lead me to believe anything at all has changed since we did the soil evaluation.
Do you believe that doing another soil evaluation would be telling and good information for all the abutters that spoke in favor and opposed for the Hawkins?
Do I feel it would be better, or? I think, as far as from the perspective of a septic system, I don't think on the entire parcel I could find anything better than that, because we did several test pits going south on the property back then, and this was the best. I think there's a lot of fill in there, as we go south.
Okay, and some of the testimony that was shared with us prior to this continuation was, as I recall, and I'm going to probably abbreviate much of the testimony, was that there was concerns about the water runoff towards the back of the property. Do you have any commentary about that?
Let me open and look at the topography. We got if you still have that plan, we show topo on the entire lot, and it seems to, from the road, it flows downhill. Oh, shit, I got it upside down. I said, that's kind of how I remembered it. Let me turn this over and look at it correctly. The water generally flows to the hill, down to the road. If you look at the upper left-hand corner where you are, that's elevation 114. Oh, 112. All right, it's off the page. 112, 110. The next one down is where is it? 108. Then it goes down to 106. It should be, and so it's going almost diagonally from top left to bottom right, which is Parker Road down at the bottom, right? Yeah. So the water is not flowing to the back. It's not going to flow uphill. I've never seen it, and I've got a lot of experience, unless there was a big fire hose behind it pushing it uphill or something. But this is going to flow from the upper left to the bottom right into the road. And I think any layman can see that. And that was topography that we did on the ground that we attest to is correct.
Okay, does the board have any more questions for Mr. Ramondi?
Yeah, I do, Manny. Mr. Ramondi, that design we just saw that was put up on the screen, when was that? Who designed that?
When did I first design it? Is that the
So
question?
the design that we just saw with the structure and the septic, who drafted that?
Who drafted it?
Yes. And when was it drafted? Or the question can be for the Hawkins, Mr. Hawkins.
Oh, well, it would be before the approval date, which was on the original plan, original submission, 11/26/13. So probably did the soil evaluation maybe a month before that. Well, I have the exact date of the soil evaluation. The history on it, signed and approved 9/10/13. That's when the soil evaluation was approved by the state.
Let me ask the question a little differently. The structure on that property, that wasn't there in 2013, this design in 2013.
Yeah.
When the placement of the septic tank, when was that, was that driven by the placement of the footprint of the structure? I'm
The
trying to,
design is mostly modified. We generally design the best place for the septic system first, and then whatever's left over, if we have room, is where we put the house, if that meets, and obviously doesn't meet.
so what is the date, the drafting of this design we see on the screen with the structure, the 4-bedroom house? When was the 4-bedroom house?
That would be at the same time frame. We do that simultaneously. We get the information from whatever information that's available to us. What's based on number of bedrooms is the most important, because that's the thing that directly sizes the system. We have to be able to support the number of bedrooms.
Was that design then done in 2013, or what was this design crafted within the last year?
This design was original 2013. Nothing changed. We just renewed it. This is the original design. I got the original application right here. See it? Can you see it? I got 2 green outlets. And you can go into the building inspector's office because they would have a signed copy of this, both applications.
Okay, thank you. If the footprint of the house was reduced to less than, or the house positioned differently, would that allow the movement of the septic system 9 feet so a variance would not be required? And therefore this house could be built without any variance required from this board?
Anywhere you put it on this house is not going to meet your regulation. Anywhere you put it on the lot, it's only 151 feet on the diagonal, not a straight across, probably less than that straight across. And no matter where you put it, it's not going to meet the 100-foot setback or how you orient it. That I can see.
So if the house was reduced its footprint from 58 feet down 9 feet less, would that allow the movement of the septic system?
I could say this, it would not have no effect on where we could put the system. We put the system in where we felt it was by ecological assessment of what I found on the lot when I did the soil evaluation. When I go out, I'm getting old and I don't go out in the field that much anymore. But when I do a soil evaluation, I am always on site because that is the first time generally that I have access and actually see the land, and I always ask the client to be present in case we had any discussion. Now, I can't remember who was present. This is quite a few years ago. But we put pits in, and as we moved towards the north, it got better and better, and then it started to, I think, one right against the property line, which obviously you don't want. The northern line, it looked like it had a lot more fill in there, and we don't like fill. If you know, if it's deep, because then you have to remove it, and you have a lot of fill to remove. This is constructed, so there's only 18 inches, 20 inches on the 2 test holes of fill, so we have to remove that anyhow. So it's not going to affect the efficacy of the system itself, the design of the system. And I always go do it personally for that very reason, because I want to put the best place for the septic system that works. And
So in your expert opinion, then you're saying that if that house footprint was smaller, say a 3-bedroom or something different,
well, you can make
you're
a
saying that you
system.
cannot move, are you saying that you cannot move that septic system 9 feet to be within code? In your expert opinion, regardless if that was a smaller house put on that property?
16, 51. All right, so if you look across this distance here.
Mr. Raimondi,
line,
your camera
see
is
it?
off. We can't see you. Sorry. If you're showing something, we can't see you.
It's hard for me to see what I'm looking at. All right, the diagonal, I'll try to explain it in words. Can you see that?
I'm just asking you a simple question, Mr. Raimondi. If
Well,
with
no,
a smaller,
no,
with a
I
smaller
understand.
house with a smaller footprint, could the septic system be moved 9 feet to be within code?
Let me say this, the lot is only 151 feet wide on the skew on the southern end, and on the northern end is 156. Now, no matter where you put it, it's not going to meet the 100-foot on all 4 sides. You don't have that much room. So you miss it. So you're not going to make the zoning on that, period. And this is the best area for the system that I could find on this lot for ecological and functional purposes. If the lot's only 150 foot wide, how can you have 200 feet of separation? It doesn't work.
Okay,
I'm sorry if I'm getting excited about
okay,
this.
thank you. I'll move on to
I
another
do a lot of
question.
system. I have one subdivision I did, I don't know, maybe you know it, on 116 Hunters Cross, 160 subdivision lots in that subdivision. Did it 20, 30 years ago, and I haven't had one callback for a failure, and they're only 20,000 square foot lots. So I think I do my job pretty good.
So,
And I think I have an excellent
Mr.
reputation.
Raimondi, I have another question for you, Mr. Raimondi, I'm sorry. If this soil analysis, all this work was done 9 years ago, and contemporaneously, the abutters are advising today that they believe the water flow off that property, in their opinion, not experts, but in their opinion, what they've seen with the development that's occurred 9 years later on in that area, that there's a problem with the water flow, and that what I'm implying is that another test or analysis should be done. When you hear something like that from abutters that live near that property, that they are seeing a different in water flow on that property, would you suggest that another review be done, another assessment be done?
I don't think so, for this reason. The water is not flowing towards any place other than T Parker Road. It's going diagonally across the lot, but it's flowing downhill towards the road. You're not going to reverse gravity.
Okay, let's go with that. Let's assume the water's flowing in the direction you're saying, but if the water's still flowing because of development at a higher rate, that still potentially could be a problem.
To my system, no.
Not to your system. I'm saying for the property. You don't develop the system. You do the overall analysis of water flows on properties, correct? And soil testing and all that?
I just don't follow what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying.
Are
is
you
that
a butter?
the
Are you
abutters
a butter or are you a
the
member of
abutters
the board?
testified.
You can only do one at a time. Yeah, one at a time.
Mr. Ramondi, during our last hearing, there's significant concern by the abutters regarding adding another property, a structure on that land and water flow, regardless of which way it flows.
Oh.
So we're trying to account for that this testing was done 9 years ago, and the development of that area is substantially different, which means it could impact water flow regardless of what directions it is going. If you hear that as an expert, would you recommend that that property be retested?
No, I don't see any reason to do any retesting here whatsoever. This is a straightforward system. It's not an engineered system. Man, I've designed septic systems in much wetter places than that, much wetter, and have had no problem. I do my job, I do it right, and a lot of times I have to convince my clients, we got to spend a little bit of money and go up to the next type of system, but it'd be for your benefit. I also tell them, when you're out, and they don't always listen to me though, I tell them, don't have a garbage disposal. You're in the country now, do not use it. It will ruin your system. And the only 2 failures that have been associated of literally thousands of septic systems I've done in my lifetime that failed was because they were using a garbage disposal in a septic system. That's a no-no. That is the biggest way, quickest way to ruin your septic system. I want everybody to hear that, because I'm not in the business of doing repairs. I don't like to do repairs. I like to do it right the first time, and have people follow my suggestions. I can't force them, but I don't see a logic of water does not flow uphill. At least I've never seen it unless it was a high pressure hose behind it or a hurricane pushing it up over the beach. Other than that, naturally, it does not flow downhill.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Ramondi from the board?
I'm very passionate about what I do.
I hear some really good commentary. I think where Jim was, and I don't want to speak for him, but he was just trying to get a feel if there was a test that you would recommend to help the abutters feel more accepting of a type of system. And I think he was hoping.
I can tell them what to do. May I interrupt you?
Sure.
Hire their own separate soil evaluator and do some test holes on their property along the common property line, but on their property. And that would be close enough to tell them if anything's changed. I have nothing to hide.
Okay. All right, thank you. From the board's perspective, any more questions for Mr. Ramondi? Okay, hearing none from the board, I just before we go to interested parties and abutters, does the board have any questions for John B. or John F. Hawkins? I do have just one question of clarification for John B. Hawkins. In the letter focused on removing the rear yard setback, just a clarification, Mr. Hawkins, is it mentioned that it was 78.02, and the letter talks about the existing home is at 77.7. Is it your intent? Is it your intent to build within the 78.02 setback?
Yes. No plans, no.
Say yes, say yes.
No,
So you're,
are you talking that foot do I have something specifically for that foot?
Are you
Or-
planning on, are you planning on moving the outward wall of that at the 78.02 that you've calculated in your letter? I'm trying to understand, maybe I read it wrong.
Yeah, no, if I may, John, what the chair is saying is that in your letter, it shows that there's allowable setback of 78 feet, and that's per that section that was quoted to allow substandard lots of record to be, have a reduced rear yard setback relative to the lot depth. And that calculation brings your effective rear yard setback to be what is approximately 78 feet. And the plan as of right now is showing it's 77 feet, right? Or no, I'm sorry, do I have that backwards?
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a foot gap, a foot difference between the revised setback and where the edge of the home is showing. And I think the chair is asking if you plan on accounting for that difference, or if you have any plans to account for that difference, or if you plan to construct as it is shown on the plan right now.
Thank you for the detail, Michael. Yeah, it was, so sorry.
As it's shown in the plan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think in my attempt to clarify, I think a little bit more confusing, but I apologize.
Yeah, I guess the question is that you withdrew the rear yard setback, and you're 1 foot over your allowable setback at being only 77 feet and some change from the rear yard, whereas your calculation states that you should be at 78. And I was just trying to understand.
We would.
Sorry, Mr. Hawkins, I'm just trying to finish my point. Sorry. The question was, is you withdrew that portion of the required setback as you calculated 78, and you're going to be at 77. So your statement was that you're going to encroach on the setback that you identified.
If I may, I'd like to direct that question to John F.
Right. Yep.
The house could be moved. We can move it a foot, and it's not going to. It'll be within the code.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. I just was trying to understand the removal and the approximate foot overlap. Was trying to understand the articulation, because the letter clearly states that there was going to be an overlap of some distance, small, albeit, but the removal.
No overlap. No overlap. We would build within the code.
Thank you. That's a good clarification. I just wanted to make sure it was voiced, because the letter does not state that, but I understand your intent now, and now it's sort of on the record. Any more questions of the Hawkins before we try to hear from abutters and interested parties from the board?
Manny, I have one last question for Mr. John B. Hawkins, or Mr. John F. Hawkins. My understanding from the last hearing that this property was offered, when was the last time you offered this property for sale? How recently?
Last spring with a local agent. They had several inquiries, but the problem with I've had inquiries over the years. This property has been on the market since the original campground division. It was, I got all kinds of questions about it. People wanted to be there, but they were told by the town or by other neighbors that it was not a buildable lot, or you had to get a variance, and they didn't want to go through a variance procedure. And one particular person who was interested was a person who built the house next door there, the house where Mr. and Mrs. Etsy live now. Not Esty, Mr. Esty. He built that lot, that house on that lot, and he wanted to buy this lot. He was told it was not buildable, or he had to get a variance, and he didn't want to go through that. And I can understand why, because my mother owned this lot. My mother was in her 90s. She didn't want to go through this. She didn't want to go through a variance. She didn't want to go to court, like I was told I might have to go to court. Hey, I'm willing to go to court. If that's what it takes, I'll go to court. But my mom passed away. She didn't want to go through this kind of baloney. And I'm still healthy enough to do it. This is my grandson, John. He expressed interest in this house, in this lot, to build a home for himself. I've got other relatives that have homes nearby. I'd like to have my grandson live there. You know, my mother wanted to sell a lot. And every time we got an interested buyer, they were discouraged because of the town saying it wasn't a buildable lot, because they would have to go through a variance situation. You know, my mom was in her 90s. She couldn't put up with this kind of stuff. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's
thank
all,
you. Is there
Manny,
any-
I have.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions from the board before we move on to butters?
I do, Manny.
Okay, please.
This question is for either of Mr. John Hawkins. I am curious because there has been quite a bit of concern for the water running off and on this lot. How do things look today, considering that we are having, a substantial amount of melt on that lot with the heavy snow that we had and the warm temperatures we've had? I'm just wondering what's it looking like now?
It's a nice dry lot. There's no water on the surface of the lot other than what comes down today. It's frozen. There might be some water on the top because the ground is frozen. There's snow on the ground. There is no water on the ground when the weather is clear. When there's no snow, there's no water on top of the surface of the ground. There's water runs downhill. When the water can't get down in the ground because the ground is frozen and it rains, water's going to run in the road or in the gutter on the side of the road. Under normal conditions, normal weather, there's no water showing anywhere on that lot. There's no wetlands. Mr. Ramondi can vouch for that. He did all the tests over there. He'll tell you where the water was in the test pits. Test pits showed 10 or 12 feet dry holes.
I understand, and thank you. So a follow-up question for that would be not necessarily for you at this time, but if, obviously it's a hill. So I'll be interested to learn about if any water is going anywhere else right now because of the weather conditions. And I only ask this because of the age of the test pits and the design. So thank you.
Let me ask you a question and the committee. Have any of you taken a look at this lot? Have any of you actually seen the ground? This lot?
Would you recommend that we do that?
Sure. Go look at it.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration as we move forward. Any other questions from the board to the Hawkins? Okay, hearing none. We're going to move to trying to look at the abutters first in favor and then and then after that opposed, and then through interested parties. Just keep in mind that the testimony that's being offered today should really focus around from the abutters, should really focus around the testimony that was given today through the expert witness and through the added commentary from both Mr. John B. and John F. Hawkins. We'll start with abutters in favor who would like to speak. This is going to be a little difficult because there's no one in the room this time, but please be patient, wave your hand, someone will look for you, and we'll call you off of mute. Michael, maybe you can help me with that as well.
Yeah.
So abutters in favor who would like to speak.
Joanna has something to say.
I just want to ask Cindy, do you need a break or do you want to go a little bit longer?
I can go a little bit longer.
All right, just wave me down and we'll, when you need it. Okay.
Thank you, Joanne. Any second call for abutters in favor who would like to speak on behalf of the application? I am looking. If I don't see you, please just wave. And third and final call for abutters in favor who would like to speak on behalf of this application. Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move to abutters opposed to this application who would like to chance to speak on behalf of this application. Opposed to the application, sorry.
I see Matthew and Stephanie Hicks. I also see Mike Espy. Man, it's up to you who you'd like to take first.
Okay. You mentioned Stephanie and I think Matthew Hicks.
Yes.
We'll go with you first just because you said that, and I didn't catch the second name. So Matthew and Stephanie Hicks, please come off of mute, and we're going to get you sworn in through Cindy, please.
Can you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your names one at a time.
Stephanie Hicks.
Matthew Hicks.
Thank you.
Can you just state your address as well?
4.5 T Parker Road, Foster.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're just here to kind of, touch upon our feelings from the last time, as well as talk about, some of the things mentioned today and even Mr. Ramundi's testimony, and just kind of reiterate our feelings that the lot is not within the right standards. It's a small lot. The dimensions don't meet requirements to have the septic the way that it is. I think something like a septic needs to fit within the correct parameters. These properties are going up quickly around our area. Again, it's that corner especially is turning into quite a built up location, becoming like a suburban feel. I just feel like the residents of our area should also be taken into consideration as far as that lot being buildable. There are, I understand it's a substandard lot and was deemed as such, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all substandard lots should be built upon. And again, if things can't be fit within the correct, limitations of what's required by the town, then it shouldn't be approved, in my opinion. Again, we have had lots of problems with wells being dry in our area. Again, with all the property and the houses that are going up, we did have to have our well fracked. Once that started happening, we're concerned about that happening again. I do have the farmland tax credit. I have, horses on the property that I'm concerned about as far as, having enough water to take care of them in addition to our regular household needs. Also an additional concern that rose for us during this meeting was just the age of everything that's continuously mentioned, going back to 2013 and these tests that were done way back when. I understand they're saying that it remains valid, but a lot has changed in this area since 2013, including houses going up, other septics going in, wells going in, and maybe it doesn't necessarily affect that particular lot, but it certainly affects those that are surrounding it. In addition to that lot, and adding another one, what does that bring into the mix? So it is concerning for us, as well as, you know, being taxpayers in the community and having a house that close to our property, looking at houses from every angle, and just Foster being a rural area. We're here to help, you know, preserve that. And that's why we're here. And that's why we pay the property taxes that we pay, is to have that type of environment. And it just feels like that's kind of slipping away as we continue to build up the area. So, you know, those are some of the reasons that we're kind of opposed to it. I know he's also stating his grandson's going to live in that house and, you know, wants to move there, but it just feels, with some of this testimony, that plans have been in place since 2013, tests have been in place since 2013. It just sort of makes us feel that this is more of a house is going to go up and it's going to get flipped and sold because they can't sell the property for these reasons, variances and things of that nature that are going to be required because the property just isn't really big enough for what they want to do. So that's where we stand with it. And we're just opposed to a house even going up over there at all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. And I think the next name was Mike Espy. Are you, okay, Michael, why don't you
Wait,
come?
did Matthew want to testify? I know we swore him in.
I don't want to say anything. I'll say something bad.
Okay, thank you. Hey, it's better than the alternative. Yes, Mike Espy was next.
Yep, I'm here.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
Sure. It's Mike Espy. I'm at 4T Parker. I'm the property to the immediate right of this proposed lot.
you.
So I just wanted to go over a couple of things. I'm piggybacking off of what the Hicks had to say. I moved here in 2019. I know there was some discussion that, you know, my house is a smaller lot than this property. My house was already here. It was just, the footprint was already here. It was just the old campground. It was rebuilt. So it didn't change the footprint, but it is what it is. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and I would suggest if the board members have not walked this property or gone by this property, I would suggest you do that. The winter time is one of the worst. I've been living here since 2019, like I said. The property behind me was being built when I moved in. We've seen a whole bunch of trees being cut down all around us, which trees absorb the moisture and the water on the ground. Winter time is one of the worst times for me. I've got rivers in my backyard. It's coming from the property behind me. It's coming from the property to the right of me, to the left of me, which is the property we're talking about. I do have some photos that I did snap just out of curiosity. I'd love to share them with you if I can have a share of the screen. I know there's a question, what kind of water do you get on your property? I have those photos. Does anybody want to see them if I can share them?
Would you be willing just to show us a few?
Yeah, I have 3 photos.
They're
They're
you
very
can,
quick.
I've allowed screen share, so go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me just get here real quick.
Manny, just
So-
excuse me for a second. I'll be right back.
So this is looking out my garage door to the right of my property. As you can see, that's all water on top of ice. So it's flowing down from the backyard, from the neighbor's yard, which again, the house back there was built in 2019. I think it was finished in 2020. So I do get a lot of runoff from there. This is looking towards the left of my property, which is the property that we're talking about. Again, you can see that all that clear is water on top of the ice. So we do get runoff. And I know the engineer, actually, let me show you one other photo. This is the front of the house. As you can see, I've got a river running. It's coming from the left side of my property down into the road. So that's what you get on a heavy rainstorm, melting snow. Water's coming from everywhere. There's trees on that property. You start clearing those trees out and you've got a clear ground. Now you've got a house and the ground can't absorb that water. The expert talked about the topography shifting towards the right-hand side of the property, which is my property. So there's a noticeable downhill slope from that property to my property that's going to allow this water to come off. If you look at the plans that were shown, there's a rock wall that's out by the road. That rock wall is a buffer that prevents that water from going onto the road as they discussed. That water is hitting that rock wall and it's coming over to my property. So we've got water that is actually running off, and it's going to be more of a concern when that house is built and all that land is cleared, because there's nowhere for that water to go. Now you compounded that with a septic system there. I know the engineer or the expert said that his systems have never failed, but I'm concerned with the amount of water that's going to be running off there, that contaminated, dirty water from that septic system is going to leach out into my property and cause a problem. If you look at the plans again, the boundary of my well system is within their property. I think there's a 100-foot radius. I have concerns that again, the seepage is going to go into the ground and affect my well system. I know that there was a discussion about the wells. That's something I didn't think about when we had this first meeting, but over the past month, I thought more and more of it. Yes, I ran into a problem one summer where, again, moving from the city, I figured, let me water my lawn. My well ran dry. Had to wait a day and a half for it to basically refill itself. That's a concern I have, especially on a house, another 4-bedroom house. I think Mr. Hawkins says he has 2 young kids. You're filling a tub. That's a lot of water that's being pulled out of the ground that's not being pulled out right now. So I do have some concerns with that as well. So again, I have concerns with the septic system. I have concerns with the runoff that's going to be coming onto my property, and I have concerns with the well system. Again, my house was there, and I know we're trying to compare it. He's trying to compare my house to what they want to do. Again, my house was there. It was just rebuilt. So
Mr. Espy, I've only seen one photo. Do you have 2 more that you were planning on showing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I shared them with you. All right, so that photo is looking to the left towards that property. As you can see, there's more water running off of there. And then the last photo that I wanted to show is the front of my house. And as you can see, there's a river. The property is to the left. So that water's coming from all that property over there. And again, as I said, the topography, according to the plans, drops 2 feet. And then at the 106, which is where the septic system is, and I'm sure it drops even further by the time it gets to my property. So I'm going to stop sharing that. One last thing, I did talk to the DPW. We do have a problem in front of my house with severe runoff, which you can see from my property, from the property next door. I know the DPW is working to put in some type of a culvert system there to kind of alleviate that. But again, it's not going to alleviate the water that comes onto my property. So I do have concerns with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the testimony. Anyone else, any other butters opposed to this application that would like a chance to speak on the new information shared today?
Kara LaFrance had her hand up.
Oh, yeah. Yes, thank you. And
Yeah.
Mike, if you could just send those pictures to me if you haven't already through email.
No. Hi, everyone. I'm actually, can you hear me?
Yep, we just need to swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
I'm Carol LaFrance, CarolLafrance. I'm 3A T Parker Road.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have my headphones in. I apologize. So, I appreciate my neighbors commenting. I do want to go back to the previous meeting. I apologize, but we did allow another neighbor to speak that commented on the water that was flowing on the property. And Mike, I do appreciate your pictures, but I'd like to say that The property here has a natural flow towards the road. Regardless of trees being removed or homes being built, that natural level of land is still going to be present. And I am familiar with the Hawkins land, the lot that's in question here. It is a very dry lot. It is not a lot that has a river flowing through it, as mine was supposedly, supposed to be. But again, I don't. Do you want to talk on this, or you don't want to talk on this? So again, I looked at the pictures. I saw the water flowing. I think that water flows in a natural direction. We're going to have ice. We had 2.5 feet of snow here. It's going to flow. We had a lot of rain. We're going to have puddles. That's natural. I think we need to consider that. And I do suggest that the board comes out and takes a look at this property. I truly do, before we make any decisions.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're going to be looking for abutters who are opposed to this. Joyce, that's the name I see. Is that you out there waving your hand? Feel free to come off of mute and get yourself sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Joyce Trivet. I currently live at 106 Old Plainfield Pike, Foster, Rhode Island. I am John F. Hawkins's sister. I have lived in Foster since my parents first bought the property, which dates back to the early 1960s, perhaps 1959. I was a child. I've lived at 104A Old Plainfield Pike for quite a few years. And now my daughter and her family live there. And I moved into 106 Old Plainfield Pike when my mother was in her 90s, so I could help take care of her. I have lived out here since I was 11. And I'm much more than 11 now. So that's 70 years. I'm 60 years that I've lived out here. We are at the top of a hill. We're 550 feet above sea level at this point geologically. And everything runs downhill. It's a natural grade. You're not going to escape it. My best recommendation to the committee, and I think you've been being given a lot of biased misinformation, but my best recommendation to you would be to come out here and look at the lot. It's practically flat. It has, it used to be the tent camping field. I used to mow it. It was never wet, ever. Granted, we've got, even in my own yard, I have slush and water on top of the ground because the ground's frozen right now. I'm at the top of the hill. That's just the way it is. I'm sure all of you must be familiar with this topography in Foster. So I am perfectly happy to have my great nephew, John, and his wife, Michelle, and family live on that lot. We have quite a few of our family members living in this area now. My brother and his wife, my nephew, Craig, and Jennifer Hawkins live in my mother's house at 105 Old Plainfield Pike now. My daughter lives at 104A Old Plainfield Pike. That's Michelle and Brett Loxley and their 2 boys. So we have a lot of our family members here, and we've tried to keep as much of the property in our family as we could. Some of it had to be sold off because my father had medical problems late and we had to pay for nursing homes. My mother, I kept her at home as long as I could, but I had to hire help to help me take care of her. She needed 24/7 care. That's the only reason we started selling land, is to help take care of our parents. We have that one lot left. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're again looking for abutters who are opposed of this application. Are there any further abutters opposed to this application who would like a chance to speak? Is there any abutters? Oop,
No, I was
somebody-
gonna say, I didn't see anybody else.
Yeah, I don't see
Okay.
anyone else.
Okay, I'll ask one more time. Any abutters opposed to this application would like a chance to speak? Okay, I believe that'll be 3 times now. Are there any interested parties who would like a chance to speak on behalf of this application or against? I don't see any this time either. So any interested parties who would like to speak, chance to speak tonight? And final call for any interested parties who would like a chance to speak.
I just have a few questions. This is
Okay.
Joshua Hicks.
Okay, can you please turn your camera on and get sworn in?
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Joshua Hicks. My address is 15 P Parker Road.
Thank you.
So I just had a few questions. Some of them, I think one of them at least, I think I may have asked last time, although it sounds like we need some clarity on that. So Mr. Hawkins, he mentioned that the test holes that were dug were 12 feet dry. But then I forget, I think it was Mr. Ramundi, he said the water table is in fact 4 feet. Can I just get a clarification on what that means? Because that's a pretty big discrepancy.
Mr. Ramundi, do you
May I
have
speak?
please?
When I say water table, that is design water table. The water table will fluctuate on an annual basis, wet in the late winter, early spring, dry in August and September. So the old way we used to do it is put a test pipe. People used to call them perk pipes. You see, we still use them, but more or less as markers, and monitor throughout the season. There were years when you had a wet spring and you really never got a true water table, or a dry spring, and they had to postpone it for a year. I had to go back to school. I had to take soil classes. And I learned quite a bit about the glaciers and whatnot. It was very, very interesting. And I continue to take courses on an annual basis to keep me fresh up on anything. What we look for, and it's a big word, but is redoxymorphic features, which means rust stains. We're looking for the boundary in the soil between high water mark rises. Oxygen is available and little iron particles will rust, and you'll see in the perfect world a line of demarcation that's reddish orange. Sometimes it's very visible and pronounced, sometimes it isn't. But that is the design water table that the state requires us to use to design septic systems. And at first I was a naysayer and I was doing it both ways. And now I'm 100% behind soil evaluation. I found it to be very accurate. And I do occasionally go back and stick a stick in the pipe, because we have to put pipes in just for markers. So the state, when they go out and check it, they do spot checks. They'll know where we did the test hole as a marker more than anything else. And if sometimes you just don't see this rust line, so you can do it the old fashioned way, but you have to wait to the following spring, next spring coming up. So that's the crux of it. You're always looking for the highest water table. So, and then base your design and separation from that above it to put the bottom of your system. So you have ample purification, especially since we're in the Situate watershed. We have higher standards and higher degrees of separation because of being in the watershed for the Situate water supply. Does that answer your questions? A lot more technical stuff, but it's based on color. And the strangest thing is that when I took the test to pass it, they never asked me if I was colorblind or not. So I always thought that was strange. Because when I was at the service, I did electronic work. The first thing they did, all the wires are color coded. So, they want to make sure you're not colorblind.
Okay, I'm still, I don't think I understand the difference yet, but it could just be me. Again, I just wanted to, let me ask you this, the test itself, it was done in 2013, but what month were those soil tests done?
I can give you exactly, but that's irrelevant. And that's the beauty of this. It was in
Manny,
September
only if you want
10th,
that question
13.
answered.
Sorry, I
I
missed
can't
that.
hear everybody.
Joanna, did you say something?
The test was, he testified earlier that it was taken on September 10th, 2013.
Correct.
Mr. Hicks, just continue
And,
with your.
and may I add, okay. May I add one more thing?
Sure, Mr. Mundy.
People will ask, well, does it change? Well, for this demarcation that we look for, probably took 5,000 years after the last ice age before that developed, and it hasn't changed. So it's a very, very permanent demarcation of the water table, and it doesn't change, wouldn't change.
Okay, so even, you mentioned there was there was fill, on this particular lot, and that makes sense. It looks like, I drive by it every day. And you can tell, like, the back of the lot was dug into, and then it was leveled out. I mean, so I understand why the fill is there, because it is a natural hill. I'm just curious, you did the soil test in September. That's at the end of summer. It is usually very dry. You said there's 18 inches of soil, or between 18 inches and 2 feet, that has to be removed to get down to what the natural grade used to be. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
That's not exactly what I tried to describe. We can't count that top 2 feet as original grade. So we have to pretend it's not there, and then go down till we hit original grade, and then start our measuring for the water table from there. So the water table, if you measure from the grade that you see now, is actually more than the 4 feet. And that 4 feet is a very, I tend to be conservative. A lot of times if I see a 4.5 footer, I'll call it a 4, just my nature. I'd rather over design than under design.
Sure. And so how far down would the actual septic system be?
The total depth of those test holes was 12 feet, including the fill. And I'll open up the plan here, if you give me 2 minutes, half a minute. And what was the question? How deep is what?
How far down would that septic system be in the ground? Because you're starting 18 inches to 2 feet below the grade as it is right now, right?
Well, it's the bottom of the Elgin units that we're putting in is going to be elevation 104.3. 104.3. And the ground in that area, going to the middle of the system, what did I say that was earlier?
Are you breaking up?
106. So it's about 2 feet below, 2.5 feet below the existing ground.
Right, 2.5 feet below the existing ground.
Yeah.
That's.
So we're removing all the fill.
Right.
Yeah, and then replacing it with gravel, and then this has a special sand underneath it, and these are what they call Elgin units. They're packed to make.
I'm familiar with them. I'm familiar with them.
Okay.
And this kind of ties into what Mr. Espy was saying. Like, with just the way that the water does flow there, you don't think, I mean, the ground is saturated, and that's going to happen every single winter. I mean, there's just no way around that. And the way that the topography of the ground is, it is a natural hill. Now it's been kind of, it's been changed because the hill was dug into to make that area flat. It seems like yes, I think things will probably be fine throughout the dry months, but I think in the winter, it could be problematic. And that's just not something that's not something a homeowner wants. I mean, it's really not. I mean, if your Elgin system is 2 feet below the ground and it's soaked from the natural water table around it, it's just not gonna drain right. Is that not correct?
I've never experienced anything like that happening. You got to realize in the septic tank, you get a lot of decomposition that raises the temperature of the water, gets into the D box, distribution box, and then it goes into the Elgins. And you're going to have enough ambient heat there to keep it warm. That's why we have a minimum amount of cover that the state requires us to do also. And as far as the placement of the system, the state requires us not to be any closer than 10 feet to the property line. And we're 51 feet on the rear, which is 5 times the state regulation. And Foster is the only town that I'm aware of that requires this greater separation to the property line.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any final testimony, Mr. Hicks?
No, those are, that was it for my questions. I just needed to understand a little bit more about the system going in. I'm not an expert, but I am familiar with Elgin systems. I have one, and I actually find it to be kind of problematic, especially this time of year.
What kind of problems do you have?
Let's try to keep.
Yeah, that's not.
Thank you. Is there last call for any interested parties who would like a chance to speak about this application? Okay, I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone else. That was probably the 4th time. Before we move to recess, just one question that I have after listening to this, if I may, to John B. Hawkins. Is there any thought to listening to your future neighbors and abutters, both pros and cons? Any further study or soils assessment that you would do or on your own to help reassure them, or do you think there's enough information available?
Yeah, so, to all the abutters, I am from the neighborhood, grandmother's campground. We grew up there, have a lot of family in the neighborhood. At the end of the day, it's a buildable lot. Somebody's going to build a house there, whether it's myself or the next guy. I would just say, whether they know it or not, I mean, I'm the guy you want there. I want to get along with everybody. Anybody has concerns, Mike.
Hey, come look, you're on Google Earth.
Didn't hear that. What?
Baby.
Yep. So, I mean, any concern that, people have, I know there's, it is a buildable lot. There's not much you can say at this point, but water issues. So I would suggest the town to go take a walk out there. It is a flat piece of land, very little grade. Everything's coming from the back there. So all getting toward the road. So.
All right.
Why don't we give Cindy a break? A well-deserved break?
Perfect.
Cindy.
Should we move to recess? Should we move to recess before that happens, or?
No, I think it's fine. 10 minutes, 15 minutes? What do you need?
10 minutes is fine.
Okay, perfect. So it's 8:54. I mean, we can come back at
9:04.
9:04. I don't know. It's getting, it's getting late.
Are we all set to come back? I don't know if my timer was off.
Yes, yeah, we're good to go. If everybody's
Okay.
back.
Cindy, all set?
We have all the board members back. I see Michelle, I see Jim. Oh, Tim, I don't see Tim back yet.
Okay. There he is. Okay, just in time for us to go into recess.
Sweet.
Okay, so the board, I don't know if there's any discussion you'd like to have, but one of the topics I hope we cover is sort of the invite to go take a peek and walk the property. I don't know if that's an interest of any of the board, but feel free to open the discussion, anyone.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to do that. I think that any more information that I can get is probably going to be helpful for me. So.
I would absolutely want to take a look at the property and the surrounding properties with the board.
But would that mean that Mr. John B. Hawkins would have to postpone this so that we could all get a chance to look at it?
I'm not exactly sure that would have to happen. I think we can continue it to do the further information, but Joanne would have to help guide us there.
So, yeah, so he would have to, I mean, essentially it sounds like he's welcoming you, but the board would, I mean, typically you wouldn't go out there individually because unless everybody went single kind of one at a time, we could schedule a site walk, which is not uncommon. But the thing is, if you're going to schedule a site walk for the next meeting, that means that you can't really have any other business, or the site walk has to be scheduled as a special meeting, sometimes like on a Saturday afternoon or something along those lines. And if you have a quorum, you open the meeting and follow suit. And if you don't have a quorum, you know, if there's a couple of you out there, you can kind of walk it and it wouldn't be an official meeting.
Okay.
So if you'd want to do that, I would just suggest scheduling that ahead of the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have time to do it as an official meeting.
You just need 48 hours to post. I mean, but if we're
Exactly.
going to do that, we probably should figure out the time that most people are available, and that I mean, I assume the Hawkins would like to be there, or they should be there so they can show you what you need.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, from the board's perspective, is there a Saturday in a couple of weeks? I'll pull up my calendar. That's probably good for us to do it that way versus individually. Any recommendations from the board? I'm trying to look at the 19th.
Is the holiday weekend, so
Yeah.
are people in town or?
This Saturday is going to be nice and bright, nice and warm.
Yeah, the 19th, I'm not available.
I'm available the 12th afternoon time, after 12. Same for the 19th. Not the 26th.
Okay. I'm not available this Saturday. We're gonna have a little bit of difficulty there. How about moving it to the 13th? How's this weekend for the 13th?
I can be available on the 13th.
I could do the 13th as well.
Yeah, the 13th in the morning will be fine.
Jim?
Yeah, the Sunday, the 13th of February.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mine doesn't have to go, right?
Does the morning.
Yeah.
Everyone who's not speaking, please, everyone at the board, please go on mute, please. It's hard to hear.
Johnny doesn't have
What
to.
you have.
Michael, maybe you can mute everyone for us. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So how's morning? Just for the board first, is that, oh, sorry, I see John B. Hawkins. Please come off of mute.
I won't be available the 13th.
If your grandfather is available and you're okay not being there, I think that's more than fine.
It's totally up to him.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay. Is for the board, is 9 a.m. okay?
Sure.
Is that too early, Mr. Hawkins?
No, it's okay with me. 9 o'clock? Or 9:30?
9 o'clock on the third, whatever, 9:30 if you'd like, whatever you like. How about if we lock it in at 9 a.m. on Sunday, February 13th?
9 o'clock, Monday, February 13th.
Okay.
That's okay. Did they get mine?
Okay, so we'll come out, and I believe, Joanne, we have to have it as a request of the Hawkins. Is that how it works when we come out of recess? Or can the board make the motion?
Well, so Mr. Hawkins, either one or both of you, you had mentioned the site walk. So it's my understanding that you would like to postpone this public hearing to the next zoning board hearing to allow the zoning board to schedule a site walk. The site walk is not going to be the part of this public hearing. Is that my understanding?
It's my understanding that the committee will be at that lot on the 13th at
Yes.
9 a.m.
And then this hearing, this public hearing will be continued to the March meeting and the vote will be taken then. We just want to make sure that you are not insisting on a vote this evening.
Well, I'd like a vote this evening, but it seems like nobody knows what they're
Right.
voting.
It might be better to have the site walk and more
Yes.
information. So as long as
Yes.
you're in agreement, then Manny, yes, somebody from the board should make a motion to continue this public hearing to our March meeting, which is March
9th.
9th. And with the understanding that a site walk will be scheduled for this Sunday, February 13th at 9 a.m.
And that,
Somebody
and,
can just say so
So
moved.
moved.
okay, well, all right, so should we come out of recess? But one quick question for clarification. We have to open up the meeting on the 13th? Is that how it works?
Public hearing is being continued to March. You will
Got
just
it.
be opening up a special meeting of the zoning board for a site walk only. So members of
Got
the
it.
public can come, but there will be no, there's not going to be any testimony. There's no steno. It is not part of this public hearing.
Got it. Okay. And is it to be advertised or?
It will be posted like a special meeting on the Secretary of State. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so if the board's okay, we're going to come out of recess and hopefully someone can so move the motion that was just said. We'll come out of recess now.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, can we do a roll call, Michael?
Yep. All those in favor, Tim Dannenfelser,
Aye.
James Finnegan,
Aye.
Michelle Ziemba,
Aye.
Jonathan Hayter,
Aye.
Manny Lenars.
Aye. Okay, so this will be continued for a special meeting on the 13th, but this meeting will be continued for March 9th. Thank you to the Hawkins, and thank you for all of the abutters and interested parties who have spoken tonight. We have one more item on the calendar for tonight. Michael, is it possible to read that snippet as well?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. I got the ad up. I'll go ahead and read the ad like we typically do for opening up an initial public hearing. So
thank you.
The Town of Foster Zoning Board of Review will hold a public hearing on, oh, I have the wrong one up. Excuse me. That was the old one. Okay. The Town of Foster Zoning Board of Review will hold a public hearing on February 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Benjamin Eddy Building, 6 South Killingley Road with an asterisk for a property located at 37 Mill Road being Plat 12, Lot 71 in an agricultural residential AR district. Yet the appellant Bill Ricci, owner of Mill Road Realty Association LLC, seeks to appeal a notice of violation issued on September 20th, 2001, citing section 38-193 prohibited uses, automobile, truck, or other vehicle junkyard. The original hearing was scheduled for December 8th, 2021, and was continued to January 12th, 2022, and then continued again to February 9, 2022, and then the asterisk, if the governor extends executive order 22-01, allowing remote participation in public meetings, then the meeting will be conducted remotely through zoom.us. Zoom meeting access information will be posted on the agenda at the Secretary of State's website. Please contact the planning office with questions.
Can we place the application and all items attached to it as Exhibit 1?
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, Mr. Ricci has counsel with him?
Yes.
Correct. I'm Megan Chi, I'm attorney for Mr. Ricci.
I think we should just clarify. So is Mr. Ricci the owner of Mill Road Realty?
Yes. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh. Sorry.
So he's a member or owner of the LLC?
Correct.
Should we get Mr. Ricci sworn in as well as counsel? Well, Mr. Ricci sworn in, Cindy?
Please raise your right hand.
Yes,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
yes, we do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
William Ricci, 41 Dexter Rock Road, Lincoln, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Okay, please take your time to explain the request in front of the board.
Thank you, everyone. And I'll try to, I know it's been a long meeting, so I'll try to keep this short and to the point. So thank you for hearing this appeal. So again, I'm Megan Sheehan. I'm the attorney for 37 Mill Road, and Mr. William Ricci is on the meeting as well. So we're here today to appeal the notice of the zoning violation and the cease and desist from the town zoning official. The basis of this, of the alleged violation is the use of the property at 37 Mill Road as a auto salvage yard, also known as a junkyard. And the reason cited in the letter is because the current town zoning ordinance prohibits the citing of junkyards in Foster. So we're requesting the appeal to be granted tonight by the board for two related reasons. So first, because the town junkyard licensing program that really forms the basis of this violation is actually unconstitutional and prohibited under Rhode Island law. And second, because the property's use as a junkyard is a grandfathered use. This has been a junkyard located at this property since the 1950s. So I'm first going to talk a little bit about the licensing issue. I'm not going to go too much into the licensing, junkyard licensing history with Wrights Auto Parts and Foster, but there's been a long back and forth regarding the requirements for the junkyard license at this property. And at this time, the town has failed to renew Wrights junkyard license. That is something that we're still working on separately from the zoning issue. And it's not explicitly stated in the zoning violation letter, but it's our understanding that the zoning official's determination that Wrights is in violation of the zoning ordinance is because the Wrights doesn't have the active town junkyard license, and the use is therefore unauthorized according to the town zoning official.
Can you just back up? I just want to clarify that that's not in the letter, but that's your, are you going to provide testimony as to why that is the basis of your understanding?
So the letter essentially says your use of the property as a junkyard is prohibited and is unauthorized. Currently, Foster offers junkyard licenses. So if a property is being used as a junkyard and it has a license, you know, it wouldn't be an unauthorized use. So therefore, correct, the letter isn't explicit. However, it does state that it's a unauthorized use of the property. And really the only conclusion we can make from that is because of the licensing issue.
The town licensing issue or the state licensing issue?
The town licensing issue, and actually they're connected because currently the way the licensing program works is that if the town has a licensing program, that the state will not essentially override that. So they are connected issues. And that I'll get a little bit more into why that intersects with the grandfathering on. So as I outlined in my letter, there is a 1987 Rhode Island Supreme Court case called Metals Recycling that held that the state grant of power to local towns to license junkyard is unconstitutional delegation of state authority. And that case has not been overturned, has not been modified by any subsequent Rhode Island Supreme Court cases, and it's still good law in Rhode Island. So that shouldn't be a basis for saying that there is a zoning violation because there currently is not a town level license. And then that relates to the actual use of the property. So this location has been a junkyard since 1952. So because that predates the zoning ordinance as prohibiting junkyards in Foster, it should be a grandfathered in use. So really, what we're asking tonight is for the board to permit there to be sufficient time for my client to clarify the licensing issue with the town, obtain a license directly from the state, and be able to provide that license to the town. We're also asking for the appeal to be granted because of the grandfathered use of 37 Mill Road as a junkyard. It's been 35 years approximately that it's been used for that purpose. And again, there's been a lot of back and forth and issues with the town related to this property. And, my client is more than willing to and happy to work with the town to address any concerns, any issues. But, again, because of these unconstitutional licensing issues, we're asking that the appeal be granted so there is sufficient, time to address those issues.
Are you going to provide any testimony, or that it was just oral? Or I guess oral argument is not the right word here, but were you going to put any testimony on of your client, or we do have the building official here?
Yeah, yes, I'm happy to have Mr. Ricci speak in this as well. Bill, would you share a little bit about the history of Wright's Auto and how long it's been used as a junkyard?
Well, it's been for a long time. I mean, it's just been an uphill battle fighting the town with issues that I've been doing my best. I've done a ton of work there, and we've been through this back and forth with the town. And I mean, I did the best I could. Spent a lot of money. I'm in hardship now. I had to go rent another facility to do a business. I got a family to provide for, and I don't think I was treated fairly. Got neighbors next door, Mr. Restivo, who called everybody, any organization on me at the time I was trying to do my cleanup for Foster, and made it like he was doing it deliberately, and I thought he was in cahoots with the town, truthfully, because he was on the board. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but it just seemed like every time I was doing a try, I got rejected, and it's not fair. I don't think I've been treated fair at all.
Is there anything further?
Excuse me?
Is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, that's fine.
Okay, should Joanne, should we have the board ask some questions here, or should we?
Yes, you should. Yes.
Okay, I don't know if we should jump to the abutters or anything first, but
So there's no, okay, this is, wait, so Manny, this is an appeal. So the abutters, there's
Got
no abutters. I mean, typically
Well,
it.
Hold on a second. I think we lost Jonathan.
Oh, no.
I see him there. He's just.
Oh, there he is. I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies.
Sorry about that, Joe. Good point.
The appellant, puts on testimony that as to why they do not believe the NOV is appropriate and why it should be appealed. The board can ask questions. We do have the building official here.
With the building official, I have a few questions for him as well. Is it possible to get him sworn in before we start asking some questions?
Yep.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Lawrence G. DeZarmia Jr., building zoning official for the town of Foster.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So board, do you have any questions for Mr. Ricci or council or our building official?
Manny, I just want to clarify and point something out to the board that the notice of violation that you have was authored by George Dumont, who is the interim building official at the time. Larry has since come on and can attest to the accuracy of that notice of violation.
Okay, thank you. So just one quick question, Larry, is when was the violation sent?
The first violation that I have in a folder here in front of me is April 6, 2021, but the file goes back deeper than that. When back in 2014, I believe there was some discussion about this, the issue then.
The violation that is appealed today is the last NOV, which is dated September 20th, 2021. That is the only basis for the notice of
The appeal.
violation.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that has been appealed.
Okay, and can you explain the violation to the board?
I'm assuming you're still asking me.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. According to the rules and regulations, the zoning regulations of the town of Foster, 38-193 prohibited uses, automobile, truck, and other vehicle junkyards are not allowed in the town of Foster. I'm sorry, with your last name, the owner of the junkyard doesn't have the proper licenses in place. There's no way I can see anything other than a violation.
Mr. Ricci, do you have a permit or license to from the town of Foster to operate a junkyard?
No, we didn't. We're not operating a junkyard. We do have some vehicles there. It's been a long battle, like I explained before. We had an overabundance of cars, so we had to reduce our numbers to 500 cars the last episode. So now I'm down to about 300. They're still there. I'm trying to fight for my license. That's why we're still doing it. I'm not conducting business. I'm just cleaning the yard, but I have to clean it maybe every 2 weeks. I can't afford to pay laborers. That's the situation.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks to the town.
Did you so you're not operating a junkyard, and when was the last time you had did you have a license for this property to operate a junkyard from the town?
Yeah. Joanne is well aware of what the licenses were. She's been to many of the hearings. She knows the last license, I believe. My lawyer was in contact with her. Problem is I had 2 lawyers that were horrible. That's the situation I'm at. So this is my lawyer now. Megan is great. That's why we're trying to pursue the license. That's why this car's still on the property.
Mr. Ricci, I'm going to object that Mr. Ricci has never had a license to operate a junkyard. There was a license issued, but it was never issued to Mr. Ricci. I mean, so Mr. Ricci,
No.
have you ever had a license issued to you?
Oh, no. I thought he meant on the property, which you know that. It's never been issued to me, yes.
But you have operated under someone else's license, is that correct?
No. I own the property. I manage the property for Morris, who is the licensed owner, yes. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did testify you had the license was never.
Well, I understood what you meant. There's no license on the property now.
Okay, so it's continued use as a junkyard hasn't been continued. Is that true?
Well, I was waiting for my the license, not my license. I'm the property owner, my tenant's license to be reissued, and it never got reissued because of some violations that they had about overabundance of cars, and then every other violation they stuck to me. So it's just been an uphill battle, and Megan's trying to resolve it the best we could. We're gonna do what we can. We'll try to get one back.
Okay.
And again, I just want to stress that again, at the very baseline, the town licensing program is being operated in conflict to Rhode Island constitutional law. And so
clarify that I do not believe that the town licensing program is unconstitutional. There's case law post Metals, which discusses that 5-121, which gives councils the right to issue a license at the pleasure, was found to be unconstitutional. But 5-1 or 21-4 and 21-6, which allows a town to issue a license with specific that those statutes are listed with specificity. There is a case which does allow or did find that despite 5-121 or 5-21-1 being unconstitutional, the remaining sections in that chapter were constitutional. So I think there is a discrepancy. And if we want to argue the constitutionality, I don't think that that's this board's decision. And I also want to stress that that was not what was listed in the appeal. Typically, when people file an appeal, the grounds are actually listed there. The board received a letter on Monday stating absolutely new grounds that were not listed in the appeal. So
So what I would say is that, you know, just hearing exactly what you had said is that there's a lack of clarity around this program and around the requirements for being able to be in compliance with the zoning and have the junkyard license. We know that there obviously are other junkyards operating in Foster and that there's grandfathering in for junkyards that have been in operation. There has been a lot of confusion and back and forth with yourself and others in the town around this particular license. And we're asking for time to be able to clarify that internally with the town before the zoning determination is made.
I do believe that the building official, DM requires that all salvage yards have a license. And I believe that the building official has information that this property did have Wright's Auto Parts, whoever the owner of that company is, did have a license that expired in June of 2018 and has not been renewed. So to the extent it's operating, it is operating illegally. To the extent it's not operating, maybe it's an abandoned use. I think that those are the issues that the board needs to consider aside from the licensing scheme. There's an argument about the licensing scheme. There's an argument about the grandfather. The basis of the violation is not, it really has nothing to do with the license per se.
I would disagree with that because again, there are other junkyards in Foster that are not in violation of the zoning ordinances because they are licensed, and the zoning official himself just said the issue is because the owner doesn't have the license in place. There's been back and forth with
the owner does not have a state license.
Let me finish my comment. There's been back and forth with the town regarding this issue, and there's been multiple times when the town has failed to follow through on the agreements and the proposed resolution for Mr. Ricci. So again, because I think there's lack of clarity around the license issue, the constitutionality of it, because there's been this long history with the town that issue needs to be resolved before the zoning decision is made.
Does the board have any further questions for Mr. Ricci or council?
I do. I'm looking for some clarity. You know, the violation has to do with automobile, truck, or vehicle junkyard. I think I heard that you are not operating and never did operate a junkyard at the property.
That's not correct. No, that there has been a junkyard there.
Okay. So the prior use of the property prior to Mr. Ricci, you're managing the property for the owner? It was used as a junkyard previously?
The property has been used as a junkyard since approximately 1952 until the licensing issues began with the town, and then the license was failed to be renewed in June 20, I believe as well in 2018.
So I do think that Mr. Ricci could also answer the question. I mean, he's providing personal knowledge testimony. I think that's important for the appeal.
Yeah, also his attorney.
I just want to be clear, you know, either it is or it isn't a junkyard or a salvage yard, but I'm just hearing a few different things, you know, from Mr. Ricci. And so I just want to be clear, you know, what are the business operations on that property now or previously, at least going back the last 8 years, according to, you know, what I see here on file. And I have questions about when licensing was or was not obtained, just for clarity.
Do you want me to talk? Oh, okay. Well, it goes right now that there is no salvage activity. There is no selling of parts, no salvage yard. There's vehicles on the property. It was a salvage yard, yes. They wouldn't renew my license because not my license, let me clarify that. My tenant's license. Because of the fact that we had too many cars. There was a 500 car only allowed 500 cars on the property that we weren't aware of, and it was never put on the license, so we never were. After a couple of years, a building inspector came and Rhett Bishop let us know that there was a cost stipulation. So then we had to deal with the town, try to get our numbers down. We had about 2,500 cars on the property. So we were battling getting the cars down, getting them done, going back and forth to hearings. And at the same time, I was dealing with Restivo next door, was going DM on me, everything that I was doing. We put a fence up. He said the fence is in wetlands. You had to take it down. I spent about $100,000 on the cleanup and about another $50,000 with DEM. Walked the property. He ran the news saying that was because he couldn't put a bakery next door. He couldn't put a well in. It was because of the salvage yard, but it wasn't. The reason why I'm telling you, this is the basis of the problems. So now we got down to our stipulation. They didn't renew the license because of that fact. So we kept going back and forth at the hearings, letting them know that it was junking cars, and I had all the slips of the cars were taken off the property. And as you can see from aerial shots, I have an aerial shot from before and after. We made a ton of work, a lot of work being done on it. I can understand that the building inspector, there is no license on the property. I can understand his situation, but they took our license for the wrong reason. So we're trying to resolve that in order to, it has a lot to do with this violation, because if the license wasn't taken incorrectly, it wouldn't be a violation at now. So the state knows I was doing a cleanup. They allowed us to do cleanup on the property with no license. The state is well aware of that. So that's what I've been doing, but it's been taking me years because I can't afford to pay anybody. So I'm at a situation where I'm paying taxes on the property, can't afford to pay anybody to clean up. My business was ruined. So that's the quick scenario of it, if that helps you. It is very confusing though.
Yes,
Okay.
we have,
Definitely.
we have a zoning restriction against.
There's a zoning, there's no license there, so I can understand why you gave the zoning, the letter, the violation letter, but the license was taken incorrectly. So if it wasn't, it's a tough situation. That's why I hired my attorney to resolve it, because I've had also two attorneys in the past, and all they did was take my money for nothing.
So we're approaching.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Sorry,
to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. We're approaching almost 10 p.m. I'd like to consider us continuing this to the next meeting, if at all possible. Do we need a motion from the board, or can we just continue it due to the late hour, Joanna?
I mean, well, yeah, we've started it. So if the applicant, I would ask the applicant, what they would like to do, only because you don't want, if they want a decision tonight, it's only fair that they have the option. If they'd like a chance to continue it and pick up where, although it will be behind the same person that you were behind tonight. So I don't know if you want to come back in March, but it would be, we could always tell you that it's probably going to be an hour before, not to sign on until 8 so that you don't sit there through the whole thing.
No worries.
Or, I mean, you could continue it to April. I mean, I think that's really, I think the town's concern would be that if there was actual operations on the property, if I was going to call him Mr. Moore, if Mr. Ricci is testifying that he is not operating, I think March or April, I would leave it to the pleasure of the applicant, just considering or appellant rather, considering I assume that March meeting is going to be the same as tonight.
And if the building inspector would like my cell phone number, I'd be glad to give it to him and communicate with him. I have no problem with that.
So I think, unless Bill, you feel strongly otherwise, I think April makes sense, and then and then we're able to also follow up on some of the things that you had mentioned, Joanna. We can discuss that kind of offline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we heard from council that we're going to move this to April. Michael, do you have the date of that April meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry. We said April.
Let's say yes, because I think March we're going to run into the exact same problem. I have no, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
So it might as well.
All right. Yeah. The April meeting then is going to be the 13th.
Okay.
Well, I have a question why are we continuing this? I know it's late, but we haven't even gone into recess to discuss how long we think we need to make a decision here. Second, on our last meeting, we specifically noted that we weren't going to continue again after this session for another delay. And now we're delaying, the board itself is delaying. So I just don't know what I know it's late, but I'm unclear of what the purpose and intent of a continuance is if we don't even understand the extent of our deliberations and how long they're going to last.
Yeah, Jim, I was just trying to care for the people that it's, who have been working all day, and especially from our town, who've been working all day, and just to be considerate to those folks. I'd like to continue for that if that's okay. And we heard from council that it's okay.
I appreciate that, Manny. I know you're speaking on my behalf. That we can, if the board still has questions that you want to get to the root of, I mean, don't feel as though you need to rush it on my behalf. I know I had reached out to you, just keeping 10 o'clock as a marker as to when it might be a time to consider this. But I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. But if the board still has questions that you want answered tonight, that you think you can't get answered, and conversation needs to continue between Attorney Sheehan and our solicitor in between that time, then certainly let's explore that. But thank you.
Okay, well, what's the pleasure of the board? Do we want to continue doing this, or do we want to postpone or agree with the continuation to April?
I don't necessarily have an issue with continuance because Mr. Ricci had stated already that there's no actual business going on. So I think the impetus for our last meeting was that, well, we need to get this thing rectified as quickly as possible. But I don't really see that the continuance is going to hinder us that much at this point.
Okay, well, that's heard from a few. We'll continue for a bit, and if necessary, we'll continue with the appeal now for a little bit, and if we see it necessary, we'll reach back out. Michelle, I think you still had a few questions before I interrupted.
I mean, I agree with continuing this because there is a lot of unclarity, and if there isn't any business being conducted on the property, then, and there's no license, then we just need to, wait, because I mean, I've heard enough as far as that goes. So I'm in favor of a continuance.
Okay, let's just I'd like to just move to the April 13th meeting if Councilor Mr. Ricci still agrees.
I agree.
So someone wants to make a motion to continue the public hearing on Mr. Ricci and Mill Road Associates appeal of the notice of violation to the April, from today's meeting to the April zoning board meeting, which is April
13th.
13th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Tim Dannenfelser?
Aye.
That's a yes. Michelle Ziemba?
Aye.
Jim Finnegan?
Nay.
Jonathan?
Aye.
Hader? I'm sorry. Manny Linares. These pictures keep moving.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes.
Okay, so from the Motion passes. We'll continue this to April 13th. One more item on our agenda before we seek adjournment is entertain a motion on our minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
We need a roll call.
Tim.
Michelle
Tim
Ziemba.
Dannenfelser.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Tim Dannenfelser.
Aye.
Michelle Ziemba.
Aye.
Jonathan Hayter.
Aye.
James Finnegan.
Aye.
Manny Lenars.
Aye. Do we have,
I just want to remind everybody that because you all heard tonight's testimony, you do need to be at the March and April meetings for us to actually take a vote.
Yes.
So alternates who are here, please be present. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, that's fine.
Yeah, all in favor, then just say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I guess we'll see you all Sunday.
See you Sunday.
See you then. All right. Take care.
Thank you, Cindy.